And we're live. Welcome to Part-Time Nerd with me, Alan. And joining me today, Mr. Rapid Dave himself. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Thanks.
Good. That's good. Good to hear. So we're back at it again. Last week we started off reviewing all these TV shows and things coming out. We did Bad Batch last week. And now we're back for episode number 5 of Loki, Journey into Mystery, which is that's the comic that Loki actually made his first appearance in. Journey into Mystery, issue number 85. So it's a little bit of an homage to that. But let's just go ahead and get into it. We try and keep these reviews pretty short, but it picks off right where the last episode left off. Loki getting pruned, getting sent into the void. You find out it's a void where they're sent to the end of time, essentially, is what it is. And he's met there by 4 different other Loki variants. You've got the old Loki with the original costume. You got Kid Loki. You've got a new version of Loki that really hasn't made an appearance anywhere. It's a black Loki that looks like he's got some sort of a version of Mjorn with him, and then Alligator Loki, which was all. I love the Alligator Loki.
Big fan.
Hashtag more Alligator Loki is what I need in my life. Well, let's get right into it. What are some of your thoughts this episode? What'd you like? What didn't you like? What do you got going on?
I think this is my favorite episode so far this season. Now, I liked episode 1. I was like, oh my God, it's new. And everything was fantastic, right? Because it's all brand new. And then they pumped a bunch of filler and what I didn't like 2, 3, or 4, but this one, it was amazing. Yeah, because when he got pruned, you assume that you're like, okay, well, he didn't die. The whole series is around him, right? So then you kind of assume he's going to land somewhere else. And then after the credits, you saw that he was around with those other Lokis. Kind of action-packed, learning and seeing what's going on. The only thing I don't like is why the 2 Lokis, him and Sylvie, are getting this. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird romance.
They addressed that a little bit with that scene where they're just kind of both sitting out there, and they're just sitting there, both awkward as can be, like
awkward silence. I had that written down. I was like, oh my gosh. But all in all, I'm really looking forward to the season finale, which is next week. You said, I think you said 6 episodes this season.
Correct.
Really looking forward to it. And this one, like I said, it was by far better than the previous 3.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I like seeing the old man Loki in there, of him just kind of giving Loki a different kind of perspective of his life. He's like, how did you survive? Because they're all the Lokis are telling their stories, and he's like, well, no one wants to hear my story. And Loki's like, no, I want to hear your story. How did you survive? Aren't we all supposed to die at the hands of Thanos? He's like, well, I'm actually kind of a chicken, so.
I don't, Loki calls out the kid Loki. He's like, oh yeah, your majesty, what's your, nexus moment? And he goes, I killed Thor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, holy hell. All right. But obviously they're kids at the time. So he got after it at a young age and whatnot. But I mean, it was a really good episode. I'm telling you right now, I cannot stand Ravana, whatever her name is, whoever's running the timekeeper.
Renslayer.
Who's Renslayer?
That's her.
That's her name? Her real name?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I got her written down as Ravana. I don't know if it's like she can't act or if her character's just that bad. Like, when she's in power, she's, oh, we're gonna, blah, blah. But when they, she's like one of those people that are like, when they have the numbers behind them, then they're really bold. But when they ain't got nobody behind them, they're the biggest chickens ever in the world. Like,
the scene there at the beginning with her and Sylvie, and you could tell she's lying. You could tell she's freaked out. You could tell she doesn't want any of that, But then Sylvie takes everything out of her hands and just prunes herself. Like, hey, look, I kind of know what this is now. She got a little bit of insight to what that was. That it's just a void. It's the end of time. So she said, okay, well, if I'm going to get to the end of this, I'm just going there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the triumphant return of my guy, Mobius. Dude, when he rolls up in that pizza car, oh my God, I was like, he's back, baby. I knew they weren't going to get rid of him. I think everybody has loved his character, I think, from the beginning. And he just wants a jet ski. He
That's it.
just wants to find out where he's from and go back to his previous life, and, but,
Just
yeah, I
ride.
thought it was great to see him.
I'm ready to see him riding off into the sunset, a la Kenny Powers on a jet ski. I can't wait for that. We have to get that next week, right? Like if that doesn't happen. I'll probably cry, like real life tears, um, because he deserves better than that.
Absolutely.
But you've got all the Lokis there. You find well, there's a couple different groups of Lokis there that are there. You've got kind of the main group that's run by the kid. That's where the Loki is. Loki 616. That's the weird thing about all right, because they're all Loki. So you're saying all of them, but you're saying Loki, but you're referring to so many different people. That's why I kind of at first thought, when he got pruned in the last episode, he might not be back because you still have Loki with Sylvie. She was still there, and she's technically still Loki, right? So, but that was nice to see that end credit and to see that no, he's still there and things like that. Because I think Tom Hiddleston as Loki is just amazing. I think he's done an amazing job in all the movies and things like that. That's one of those perfect casting scenarios, I feel.
Yeah, and then they had the look when, they had other Loki show up, and then there was an uprising. They all stabbed each other in the back, like
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
perfect Loki form. They all turned. They all had secret deals, and they all turned on one another. But the kid, the old man, and obviously the
Oh yeah.
alligator bit off what's his name's hand.
The presidential Loki, I guess you'd call him.
Yeah,
Uh,
vote for Loki.
but yeah, he's like, "It's an alligator," and dude just launched at him and bit his hand off, and then just the chaos erupted. Right, that's when all the Lokis just started battling, and they got out of there. And it was nice to see. Loki had that realization moment that he's a lot stronger than he thinks he is. Him and Sylvie both, as they're
Right,
saying, the old man Loki just erect cities, out of constructs and drawing the attention because they're going after the Alioth, I think is what it was called.
yeah, Lance or something like
Alioth,
that. Yeah.
yeah, Alioth is what it was.
Mhm,
And so they were going after that, and they just determined that Sylvie determined that she's going to um, enchant it to
mhm,
show her that they said, well, this is essentially the guard dog to who's running the show. And if we
mhm.
want to get to him, we got to get through that. And it was no easy task that they saw because, Loki's plan was like, I'm just going to go kill it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm going to go inside of it. And I'm going to go to his brain, his heart, whatever. I'm just going to kill it.
yeah.
And then
Gives him
they
a
see,
dagger and is like, "Here you go."
yeah, and they go and they see a big boat that gets dumped there, a big warship, not necessarily a boat, a big warship, and it's
Mhm.
firing at it and it does absolutely nothing. And Loki's like, okay, maybe we need to rethink this plan. Like, this probably isn't going to work. And that's when Mobius and Sylvie kind of show up. And you have that reunion between the two of them, which was nice. Mobius being able to meet back up with him and Loki getting to see him again and know that truly his friend, it's almost kind of become his first friend that he's ever had. You
Right.
know? So that moment was nice. And it just kind of ends with them. They actually do. Sylvie tells Loki that he's going to help her. They're going to enchant it, and they do, and the clouds kind of part, and then you see a house or something like that, a bigger house, but and you see, okay, that's where they got to go, and that's where they're going. That's where they're going to.
That's after they defeated and enchanted
Right.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
After they enchanted it, so you've got that going on. You've got I don't think we've seen the last of Kid Loki because if you go into the comics and kind of what they've been building is the Young Avengers, and Kid Loki is part of that. As well as Sylvie. She's also a part of it. So they're starting to kind of build that. They've all got a Kate Bishop, which is the female version of Hawkeye, essentially.
Okay.
Her show's coming out later this year, I believe it is. And then you've got Wanda and Vision's kids. They're also part of it as well. So they're really starting to build that Young Avengers core, and you'll eventually start getting that. And then you'll see what happens with Mobius because he's going back to the TVA just as he said, "I'm gonna burn that down."
Mhm. Looking forward to his character development as well because he's going to be around. I just want to see what happens because yeah, I mean the TVA is you don't know what exactly is going on. You know what I'm saying? Like they're the timekeepers, but then you got those 3 dudes on the wall that were animatronic.
Right.
No one knows what's going on. Not even the head lady that's trying to keep it together
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. Yeah. She has no idea. She wants to find out, but she's still loyal to them. And really, what I think is going to be is I think this is going to be our introduction to Kang the Conqueror, which has been confirmed to be the main bad guy in the new Ant-Man movie. He's a time traveler that goes through and conquering timelines essentially. And in the comics, Remslayer, she is um, in love with actually Kang and wants to do his bidding and things like that. So and part of the timekeepers, the statues and the pictures that they shown of them, he looks like one of them for sure. So I think that's kind of where you're going to get your introduction to him. I think in this next episode, uh, he was just the guy who's playing him, Jonathan Majors, I think is his name. He just confirmed that he is playing King the Conqueror. So I think we might get some sort of a maybe almost like a Thanos type appearance. How
Okay.
Thanos first started appearing in some of the Avengers movies. I don't think you're going to see a big conflict between them. Maybe they kind of shut things down and you kind of see him go off and say, okay, well, this plan's failed. Now I'm launching my next plan or whatever. So
Very good.
uh, we'll see what happens, but I think you're going to have a big confrontation between Mobius and Remslayer as well. You've got I'm drawing a blank on her name. The other lady that helped Sylvie out in the last
Yeah.
episode.
She's got digits as his name's like MB
Yeah.
814 or something like that. Because they're all they're like numbers to them. You know what I mean? They're not people anymore. They've already taken their lives from them and just issued them a number.
Yep. So I think you'll get her. She's in a little jail cell. I think you'll get her out. There's a lot that's going to happen this next episode, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be an action packed episode.
Hopefully so. In with a bang because like I said, a couple episodes in, you kind of they started lagging a little bit. There's nothing really important that happens in like I think episode 3 or 4. But this one was fine. Obviously, the first one, episode 1, is always going to be the best because it's like, oh my god, it's brand new, it's
Right.
something new, and they kept it good. It kind of outlines everything. But yeah, going forward, this next week should be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Now, you had an interesting comment today before we went on, is that Loki's ripping off of Bill and Ted.
Absolutely, I haven't seen
Okay.
Bill and Ted in like 30 years. And then all of a sudden, I mean, super just chance that it was on like HBO, I think this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. And I just clicked on it. And I swear to God, it's the beginning. And it's the 3 dudes on the wall that are controlling time. Like, seriously, they tell, Rufus, hey, go make sure he passes. Because if not, they won't become musicians. It'll destroy the time. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Couldn't believe it.
A little bit. Okay, I could see that.
3 dudes on a wall talking about time, dude. There's no other way to interpret that.
I think it's a little bit different because they're just concerned about Bill and Ted. They're not concerned about everybody else. Everyone else do what you're going to do, right? But what I need these guys to stay on path because they're the ones who change the world and make it this peace-loving society that they're in. So I think a little bit different. And you see in Bill and Ted, you see if they reach their destiny and create this song, you see what the world's going to be like. As opposed to with Loki, you're just like, oh no, this is a sacred timeline.
Well, just think about it this way.
Yeah.
The movie was focused around Bill and Ted. They could
Right.
have been in charge of other things. But obviously for the movie, they're telling you about only Bill and Ted.
Okay.
They didn't expand. But I'm just saying, it's a total ripoff.
Well, and they weren't the ones doing it aren't the bad guys though either. So
It's all about perspective.
perspective. Oh, this guy and his perspective.
It's all about point of view, perspective. They could have been doing something terrible 5 hours later. But right now, for that
Right.
hour and a half at Bill and Ted, they were trying to get Bill and Ted to write that song.
It's the only window that I need. That's the only window that I need.
God. I did pull a quote out of here. I actually thought that the it should have been named the name of this show should have been named something else. and it was from the guard, right? You only want it, she needs it. I thought it was great. That's something I pulled right out of there. And when she's talking to Ravona, whatever that guard's name is, it's the numbers, but she says that, and I'm like, ooh, that could have been a really good name of the show. But obviously they got to stick to what they're doing with it. Side characters and side bits, and what they say doesn't really matter. But I thought it was great. I was like, ooh, all right.
You've got a lot of things like that, and I definitely love the progression of Loki through the show, and you really kind of see him. There's a lot of moments of realization for him during this show, especially in the very first episode where he's talking about, Mobius is saying, well, that's you're Loki, you just like to hurt people. Here you are, you take pleasure in it, you love doing it, you love hurting people, you love doing that, and he just had that moment of realization saying, I actually don't like it. It's part of the show, the facade. It's part of Loki. It's part of who I am. And so in order to present this facade of who I am, this is what I do. I don't like it, but you know, it's who I am. So
All right.
you've had a lot of moments of that. I think you've had him kind of go more towards becoming a good guy as opposed to a villain, which is, typically what Loki is, but he's always kind of teetered on the fence of that,
He bounces
playing
back.
both sides, right. But I think you've kind of seen him go more towards that other side and be a little bit more selfless. And look, I believe in Sylvie. This is who I believe in. This is the only person that I trust. Out of all the Lokis out there, I don't trust any Lokis, but I trust her. So
I wonder how it's going to go next week or in the future episodes or whatever, where he just absolutely double crosses everybody. Like he just double crosses Sylvie or something, because eventually he gets there, right?
yeah, and we'll see. I don't think you're going to get that from it. I really feel like he's changed as a character, but then again, this could be the greatest con Loki's ever pulled, right? It's
Totally.
Loki, so you can't write it off.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, you got any final thoughts before we cut it for the day?
Great episode. Make sure you watch it, and then obviously catch this show right after to get our immediate thoughts and reactions. And then we'll see you next week.
We'll see you
Can't
Friday. We'll see you on Friday for Bad Batch episode number 11.
Yes.
What it is? Yeah, yeah. So we got that. That's going to be dropping. So we'll be back on Friday, and then always catch us Wednesdays at Strikeout Beer, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and then 9 p.m. for Late Night Beer Review. Same channels. Until next time, talk to you guys later. Deuces.